Justice League War shows the formation of the Justice League in the face of world domination, and in this video, we will be breaking it down. What is up, my fellow cinephiles and movie geeks alike? My name is Chris, and today we are going to be breaking down Justice League War, the second entry into my DCAMU rewatch series here on the channel. This movie follows the events of Flashpoint, where Barry had previously reset the timeline to the point we now see it at in this movie. Before getting started, a quick spoiler warning, but with that out of the way, let's get right into it. The movie opens in Gotham, focusing on Batman, aka Bruce Wayne, and Green Lantern, aka Hal Jordan, who chase a mysterious monster who we will later learn is a parademon, one of Darkseid's minions, whilst simultaneously trying to stay away from the police. Being the first meeting between Bruce Wayne and Hal Jordan, they make their first impressions on each other. Suffice it to say, Bruce is not too impressed by Hal's constant need to show off, while Hal is just confused as to why someone with no powers would ever put his life on the line.
Wait, you're not just some guy in a bat costume, are you?
The two put aside their differences long enough to catch up with the parademon, but in order to try and protect the device it's planted in the sewer, it self-destructs, hoping to kill both Batman and Green Lantern in the process, which of course fails, and they are both unharmed. Meanwhile, in Metropolis, more specifically Star Labs, Silas Stone and his team investigate one of these devices that the Flash, aka Barry Allen, had delivered to them previously. Silas decides to stay at work instead of going to his son Victor's football state finals. An important note here to make is that in the USA, high school state finals typically take place in around November, giving us a solid point to place this in the timeline, that being November of 2013. Based on this and the calendar in the background of the Flashpoint paradox, we can safely surmise that Justice League War takes place before the scene where Barry wakes up from his experiences within the Flashpoint timeline, and then subsequently going to visit Bruce and giving him his father's note. This also makes sense, as at this point in the timeline, Barry and Bruce have not yet met, as we see them meet for the first time shortly. That in turn makes the final scene of Flashpoint take place in around October of the year 2014 onwards. But 2014 makes sense enough, so I'm just going to go with that. But it could be 2015, 16, so on. Anyway, let's get back to the movie. A young Billy Batson goes to watch Victor's match, and even sits in his dad's chair. After the match, he breaks into the locker room and meets Victor, who is getting ready to visit his dad at Star Labs. After keeping Billy out of trouble, he is repaid by getting his jersey stolen. Victor actually gives Billy a good lesson in this scene, that even if someone is capable all on their own, they can't do everything alone and often need the help of others. This was said in the terms of a football match, but can be applied later on when they team up alongside the rest of the Justice League. In Washington DC, Wonder Woman, aka Diana, pulls up in front of the White House alongside Steve Trevor. Before they can go in though, they are stopped by protesters, who are protesting Diana herself. Batman and Green Lantern land in Metropolis, tracking down Superman, aka Clark Kent, believing he may be able to offer some insight into the alien device that they found. After an overconfident Green Lantern takes a beating from Superman, while Batman does his best to not get hurt, they eventually manage to calm Superman down long enough to listen to their side of the story. The police catch up with them, so they go into a sewer once again and talk it out. The three of them plan to find out exactly who is behind the parademon attacks. We briefly cut to Apocalypse, where Desaad, one of Darkseid's top lieutenants, reports that the heroes of Earth are beginning to figure out their plan, and they agree to speed up their timeline and begin the invasion of Earth. Back in Star Labs, Vic visits his father right as he is experimenting with the device. Unfortunately for him, he stands way too close to it as Darkseid activates it, takes a fatal blow, while other workers get kidnapped by the parademons, and as we learn later, are taken to be turned into more parademons. Vic is taken into a lab called the Red Room, which, despite sharing a name with the Marvel Comics Red Room, in which Black Widow trained, it contains no similarities, and is merely just a name due to the colour of the lights. But I thought I'd just throw it out there, because that's what I thought of. In that room, Silas uses alien technology to try and keep his son alive. This ends up working, but not quite as he has imagined, as the tech ends up taking him over, turning him into cyborg. His computer system holds off the parademons, while Vic is little more than a passenger in his own body. The Flash arrives to help out, but Vic has it covered. Concurrently, Bruce surmises that the parademon attacks are a precursor to a full-scale invasion. Lantern laughs at him for thinking the worst, and is immediately humbled as the device activates and a horde of parademons comes spewing out. The three of them do their best to fight them off, Superman dealing heavy damage while Batman and Green Lantern try not to get overwhelmed. However, upon hearing a distress call from Washington DC, Superman takes off to assist there. A few minutes earlier in Washington, Wonder Woman makes a stop for some ice cream, but is interrupted by parademons. She fights them off and eventually makes her way for Air Force One, where the President of the United States, along with his wife and staff, are being attacked. Superman also arrives to help, carrying the plane while lasering any nearby parademons. He and Wonder Woman meet for the first time, both seemingly infatuated with each other. Billy Batson arrives home after his outing to the football match. His foster brother, Freddy, and foster sister, Darla, are there to greet him and tell him off for sneaking out. After they tell him about the parademons, he laughs them off, telling them not to believe everything. But shortly after, he gets into a fight with one, transforming into the hero Shazam. Back in Star Labs, Cyborg shuts down the portal leading the parademons to Earth. While doing so, he hears and sees Darkseid's plan to kidnap inhabitants of any worlds and turn them into parademons. He pockets the device, and Shazam shows up with a few more parademons to dispose of them, recognizing Cyborg as Victor Stone, who he met mere hours earlier. Green Lantern and Batman continue fighting the parademons, and the Flash arrives at the scene to help. Green Lantern greets the Flash as if they were old friends, even having a handshake to go along with it. Flash looks confused, however, as to what he is doing, and this whole greeting may be a nod to their friendship in the comics, specifically in Justice League Origin, the comic book that this movie is actually based on. But I'll talk more about comparisons between the comic book and this movie later on. Flash greets Batman, also being a bit of a fanboy, and to Green Lantern's surprise, Batman knows of and compliments the Flash and the work he has done in Central City. A second wave of parademons attack, but luckily Wonder Woman and Superman arrive to help them fend off their would-be attackers as they retreat to await for Darkseid's arrival. Cyborg and Shazam show up, telling the rest of the League Darkseid's plan to terraform the Earth, presumably to turn it into Apocalypse 2.0.
It's about to get ugly.
That fits.
How do you figure?
Well, for one thing, the water's on fire.
Batman realizes that none of the humans are being killed, but instead kidnapped and harvested. Darkseid arrives on Earth and immediately shows the kind of destruction he is capable of.
He doesn't look that tough.
Despite Superman's underestimation of Darkseid, he makes quick work of the League as they try to take him on one at a time. Green Lantern gets his arm broken, while most of the others are knocked unconscious for a short time, the only exceptions being Superman and Flash, who hid behind Superman for protection. Darkseid unleashes his laser beams, called Omega Beams in the comics. These are capable of tracking their targets and even splitting apart from one another. The Flash manages to lose his beam by phasing through some cars and parademons, the beams hitting them instead. But Superman wasn't so lucky, getting hit and incapacitated, allowing a parademon to take him to Apocalypse. Green Lantern tries to go and chase after him, but Batman talks him out of it by revealing his true identity, his origin of his parents being killed, and comparing the two of them, saying that they are the only two normal people fighting alongside an alien, Amazon, human lightning bolt, cyborg, and a speedster, referring to Superman, Wonder Woman, Shazam, Cyborg, and Flash respectively. Bruce gets himself kidnapped by a parademon in order to follow Superman and rescue him. The rest of the team make a plan to blind Darkseid so that he is unable to use his Omega Beams, while simultaneously shutting down the portals and sending them back where they came from.
We got this!
We got this? That's your big battle cry. Don't worry about it, smartass. Stick to the plan.
Cyborg and Shazam converse, with Vic sharing his insecurities of his new appearance, while Shazam assures him that he will have a place among the Justice League. Despite their plan, Shazam runs into battle overconfident and ruins the plan. Wonder Woman attacks him and tells him to stop acting like a child, which is incredibly ironic considering he is a child. They go back into battle, and this time follow the plan, working together to fend off the parademons, while Green Lantern distracts Darkseid with a light show, giving Wonder Woman the opportunity to stab him in the eye.
One down, one to go.
Batman arrives on Apokolips and takes down his kidnapper, while Desaad attempts to turn Superman into a super parademon. Batman sneaks up on him and turns off Desaad's machine, causing Superman to choke Desaad out. Superman breaks free of his restraints, however the transformation process had already done too much, and he attacks Batman. The League continues working together to subdue Darkseid. Eventually they hold him long enough to give Flash an opportunity to stab his other eye with a crowbar.
Sorry, needless to save the world, thanks for your help.
Despite now being blind, Darkseid is still formidable, so they now plan to send him back home, using the devices, now labelled as mother boxes, to reverse the portal, which was labelled as a boom tube. Cyborg connects with the mother box he kept from earlier, and opens the portals to send all the parademons back to Apokolips. Darkseid, however, is too strong, and needs some help getting through the portal. The League tries their best, but are ultimately unable to get him in. Fortunately, a now clear-minded Superman returns, along with Batman. Now back to full strength, the League work together to get Darkseid through the portal. However, now Cyborg is having some issues getting the portal closed.
I typed your symptoms into the thing up here and it says you could have network connectivity problems.
Needing more power to close the portal, Shazam provides the required juice, depowering himself in the process. However, it worked. The portal closed, with Darkseid back on Apokolips. Cyborg catches Billy before he falls to the ground, recognizing him as the boy he met at his game earlier. He also agrees to keep it a secret that he's a child. He goes back to the rest of the team and opens portals to bring back the humans that were kidnapped and taken to Apokolips. The citizens of Metropolis greet them, but instead of the usual complaints, they are met with applause. An undetermined time later, they are at Washington, where the president commends their efforts in pushing back Darkseid and his armies, thus saving the world. We get a few conversations between the League as this speech is made, with Green Lantern showing his hatred for Batman, and a little flirting between Wonder Woman and Superman. Steve Trevor in the crowd sees this and gets jealous, and so leaves. Coincidentally, he was also standing next to Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen, who of course work with Clark Kent. Shazam and Cyborg converse again, with the two showing their appreciation for the other's support. The whole team discusses if they should remain a team, with Green Lantern adamantly against it, while the others, especially Flash, are open to the idea, if nothing else, to keep the GCPD off Batman's back. The president asks for their name, which they hadn't thought of, and in the moment Shazam comes up with the Super 7, a name which will obviously not stick. That there is the end of the movie. We do get a post-credit scene, however. It's very short, but sets up the next movie. The scene showcases an Atlantean ship rising to the surface of the water, with Ocean Master, aka Prince Orm, holds his dead father, the King, in his hands, blaming the surface world for his murder, declaring war on the surface. This, of course, sets up the next Justice League movie, titled Justice League: Throne of Atlantis. I won't go into that too much until the breakdown for that. Now, before ending the video, I want to talk about some comparisons between the movie and the comic book it was adapted from. That, again, being Justice League Origins. Overall, the movie and the comic were pretty much the same, apart from certain dialogue, but the events played out very similarly. However, that being said, there were a few main differences I identified. Firstly, when Superman is battling Green Lantern, the Flash shows up to offer his assistance. That obviously doesn't happen in the movie, and they only meet later on. However, in the comic, it shows that the Flash and Green Lantern already knew each other and are friends, or at least friendly. Secondly, the scene where Superman and Wonder Woman save the plane is not in the comic book at all, and was added to this movie, to show their connection and admiration for each other, without any other League members in the way to confuse things, setting up a potential relationship for the future in the DCAMU. The main difference, however, is that Shazam was not in the comic book at all, and instead of him, Aquaman was on the League. This in turn means that all of Shazam's scenes with Cyborg and any other members of the League were not included in the comic. Now, while this didn't impact the events too heavily, it just added more depth to the movie by including them, and I think it was a good decision overall. Anyway, like I said previously, it's very similar to the comic, with only a few minor differences. Anyway, that is all for this video, so I hope you did enjoy. If you did, please consider leaving a like and subscribe for more content like this. And if you want to know as soon as the next breakdown of the DCAMU comes out, be sure to turn on notifications. But anyway, until next time, this has been Chris, and I'll be seeing ya.